What is up, everybody? Today's video, you can probably already tell from the title, we are working on the Dodge Dakota RT, hopefully maybe resolving the issues. So if you guys haven't seen the last video, check it out. I'll link it above here or down in the comments and the description just so you guys are up to speed on what's going on. So I'm not going to explain everything in the last video that went on, but where we're at from this current stage is I'm probably going to order some new sensors, honestly, you guys, if I don't completely lose faith in this truck. But I'm going to order some new sensors at some point, but for now I just want to get the truck running decent. I think it's probably not a bad idea to have a new cam position sensor and also new crank position sensors, because if either one of these ever fail, the truck just pretty much dies. So this is the one that came off, that I took off of the engine that was in the truck. I think this one is probably, even though as you can see it's not new by any means, I think it's in better shape. It does seem to have an OEM part number on there, so at least it's an OEM sensor. But I'm gonna put this one back on the truck. This was with this because I'm going to try and do one other thing. So the truck was running decently, it would just die. But when I put the other crank position sensor on there, it started running like absolute garbage. So I think maybe the one that I put on there was in worse shape than this one. So I'm gonna go ahead and swap this back since it didn't seem to make a big difference in my performance. Other thing that I might try to do is, this is the cap that was on the truck with the stock engine that was running perfectly fine, you guys. So it has the brass tips, but maybe, just maybe, the other cap that I put on there, there's something up with it. So I'm gonna run through a process of elimination and do that. One other thing too is, I gotta run inside and grab it, but see on the distributor itself, see that O-ring there? I've got a brand new O-ring for the distributor, since the one that's on the truck that's outside, it's completely flattened. It's pretty similar to this, but I think this one's actually even in better shape. So I'm gonna replace that O-ring so that it's not leaking oil at the back. Because I think it is just leaking a little bit right now from us taking it out and putting it in a bunch of times. It's really leaking now, so I'll fix that. And a couple other things. I've got the PCV grommets, which are over here, and I'll show you guys those. I'll link these down in the description below. I'm gonna go a slightly different route. I was having trouble finding the one with the smaller circle without going to Dodge, and I kind of wanted to keep this on the cheap, so I got one of these larger sizes that actually has a PCV in it as well. So see how it's got the larger size, but it's restricted, and it's got the little check valve in that thing, and then there's just a straight through one. So I got two of the same donuts, and then one is the PCV valve, instead of having that little tiny PCV like you see over here. Not that this is the most exciting stuff, but I'm just keeping you guys up to date. So instead of having this little guy, I've got the big one. Same thing, but it's a little bit different way of doing it. So this way I could get all aftermarket, and all this stuff cost me like 12 bucks or something, instead of, you know, costing me a lot more. So that's that. Let's get to work. Okay, and as promised, this is the distributor seal O-ring. So it's by Molly. I'll link this down in the description below for you guys. The other thing I'm gonna do too is I'm gonna hook this up to cylinder number 1. Just double, triple check that we are on the compression stroke of number 1 TDC. So I'm gonna take that spark plug out, and I'll put my finger over top of the end of this. It just kind of gives me an extended reach, just to make sure that the piston is coming up on the compression stroke when we hit TDC, when we time everything. Yes, I know about fuel sync, you guys. Trust me, I have the scanner. This thing's still acting up. So we did try doing the fuel sync, but this thing is still giving us issues. So I'm hoping, I'm gonna go through everything right now and just get to the bottom of this. Okay, so we'll take out the spark plug from our first number 1 cylinder. That way I can check. So just if you guys don't know what I'm talking about, when you're lining up the distributor, you have to make sure that you are at TDC on number 1 on the compression stroke. So in order to do that, since that shield's on there, I'm gonna just stick this thing in here, and I'm gonna put a 32 on the crank, and I'm gonna turn it over to our timing marks, and I am going to make sure that I can feel pressurized air coming out of the end of this hose. All right guys, so I have a little paper towel stuck in there, and I'm gonna rotate this over until we hit our timing mark, and that paper towel should shoot out as we build compression. So here we go, guys. I can hear it hissing out of there. So we are on the compression stroke of number 1. And there we go. Our timing mark is aligned. So let me just finish lining this up, and we'll see where our distributor is at. Okay guys, so I took off the distributor cap, and you can see the rotor, and where it's pointing is the general direction, and you have to make sure it's pointing to here. I showed you guys in the last video, cylinder number 1, this plate actually fits like that. So we're not 180 degrees out. So I'm gonna pull the distributor anyways to replace that seal, and then once we line it all back up, I'll show you that process as well. Let me pull this out, change that O-ring, and then we'll put it back in. Okay, so we got the distributor out. Look at how flat this seal is. It is completely flat. So I was getting a bit of oil at the back, and it was actually, look at that, just broke in half. So this thing was completely dried out, and it was actually leaking oil on my crank position sensor. So I don't know if that was maybe throwing my reading off. It'd be kind of cool if we finally get to the bottom of this, but couldn't have helped anything, because every time I swapped the crank position sensor, it was absolutely covered in oil. So let's get that new one on there. This one should be a lot more flexible, I would hope. Boom. So there we go. Got a nice new O-ring that's not turned into plastic, so that should seal nice. I also took off this red distributor cap. I put the old one on there just since the truck was running perfect with the old one. Maybe with this, you know, cheap aftermarket one, maybe that's something. I'm just gonna go back 100% the way it was for you guys when it was running perfect before we put the cam. So I kind of like, I didn't think I was gonna harm anything by putting this on, but you just never know. So let's go ahead and throw this back in. All right, so I don't know if you guys will be able to see this, but let's see. You can also see it, I think. So hopefully you guys can see that. That is where my cam gear is facing. So top dead center, that's the orientation, and then when we put in our distributor, it will face number 1. Let's go ahead and get it all in. All right, so we have the distributor marked up with that line. So our rotor is facing the number 1 cylinder. As you can see, that'll be enough to get it started, and then we can do the cam sync or the fuel sync once it's started, but let's keep putting it together. All right, so distributor's back on. I snugged down the hold down clamp a little bit. I've got my wrench here for when we fire it up. Kind of running out of daylight here, but I'm also gonna throw in these grommets finally so that no crap gets in the engine. So let me just throw these in. Pretty straightforward, rubber part, and then you put your elbow. So let me just fire those in. All right guys, it is in fact the next day. It got kind of late and I got a little bit tired. So anyways, the next day, and we're gonna go see if she finally starts. So I just wanna go over, look at how dried out this thing is. I showed you guys before, but this thing I think was puking some oil out the back, because I did see a little bit of oil, and every time I took out the old sensor, the crank sensor, there was some oil on it. So I don't know if maybe that was causing some interference, because it's pretty wet with oil. So what was happening is this was puking and trickling down and pretty much going right down onto our sensor. So I don't know if maybe it's because an old sensor. I did order one just in case. I got a new Mopar one, not aftermarket, because a lot of guys were saying that they had issues with the aftermarket. So I went with a Mopar crank position sensor, since these ones seem to be looking old. So we have one of those on the way, but let's get the new one on there, or at least put the one that we have working on there for now. And then I'm going to start it. I got my 1/2-inch wrench, I got the key, and we'll probably get this on here and double check our fuel sync. So cross your fingers, boys. Let's see if she's finally fixed with just changing some stuff back. So let's quickly recap what we got done here. So I'm going to disconnect the battery, since a lot of people mentioned about resetting any of the parameters that are in the factory PCM. So we'll take that off. I'll hold the key or ignition for about 20 seconds to drain any of the power that's still remaining. So we'll cycle the key a few times, or hold it for 10 to 20 seconds like a lot of guys do. So we're doing a complete reset. Other than that, I put the other distributor back on. Like I said, I put the crank position sensor that was on this engine that was running perfectly before we did the cam swap. I put that back on, dried off any oil that might have been on it. I replaced the distributor seal, and verified that we are lined up. So also lined up our distributor with that mark for the number 1 cylinder. So now all is left to do is fire it up and cross our fingers. So let's put our negative back on, and let's hope that maybe it was just some oil that was running off the back, because like I said, this thing was running fine, and then all of a sudden it started acting weird. So maybe it heated up and some of the oil at the distributor leaked onto the sensor, and that was causing issues. But let's see. So let's fire it up and we'll see how off the fuel sync is. You guys ready? Sounds pretty good right now as far as how she's running. I do have an exhaust leak which we have to fix at some point. Let's see how off we are. I don't know if you guys can see this. So I still have the truck saved. There you go, system tests. Set sync signal. But it seems like it's running pretty decent right now, honestly, you guys. Let's see where she's set right now. So let's turn this on. So right now, you can see RPM's at 700, 0. Usually you have to wait till it gets up to temperature, but we'll try it just right now anyways. On. Oh, we're actually bang on the money, boys. Look at that. My eyeballs are good. Look at that, 3, 4, 5. You see that? 3, 4, 5. So we're exactly where we want to be. So I'm just gonna tighten that down even more. We'll turn it off. She'll idle back down where she wants. Hopefully, maybe we might be fixed. Air fuel looks decent. Let me let this warm up, we'll see what she does. Alright guys, we might be back in business. It doesn't cough or spit or sputter or nothing. Sounds real healthy now. What the hell? This thing's got a mind of its own. Hopefully you guys can hear this crazy cam. We still got some tuning to do for sure, but you guys should be able to hear it. And rev it up. It's not missing anymore like it was before. Oh my gosh. You guys, it's finally back alive. Guys, I think this is the most progress we've ever made in this thing. Well, this is the most she's wanted to drive, you guys. I'm not going far though, because last time she stranded me, so far so good. Alright guys, so it looks like all that fixed it. So you can see it's still running. I'm leaving it running to see if it's gonna die, but hopefully you guys can hear me okay. I'm giving it a well-deserved bath right now. But essentially, I think it was a combination of a few things. I mean, I don't know, I kind of went on a bit of a wild goose chase changing some stuff, which I don't recommend. I just happen to have a bunch of spare parts here and I thought it was easier to swap some stuff, but who knows whether I went in the wrong direction, right? But the distributor, I think at some point I did show you or tell you guys that, but the distributor seal was leaking. So I don't know if that was the root cause, is the fact that it was leaking oil and it got onto the crankshaft position sensor, and that's what was causing this thing to run crazy. And then I swapped it with something else. Maybe something else was faulty, but anyways, it's back running for now. Cross your fingers. I'll keep you guys updated. Next off, we just need to get this thing tuned. But it drives around right now. It's a little bit, you know, quirky because obviously we have a lot more air and we have the cam in there and all that stuff. So you kind of have to, you know, it might die out on you when you slow down. It seems like it wants to die. So and we got to adjust the air, fuel, and all that stuff. So we'll get this thing dialed in, but for now, she's good to go. Thanks for watching, guys. Make sure you give it a thumbs up. Also, hit that subscribe button, turn on that bell so you're notified of all the latest videos. I'll keep you guys up to date on this crazy thing. I'm gonna wash it. See you guys in the next one.